People who are crafty and clever are often referred to as foxes. The question is, are foxes actually crafty and clever? They may well be. At any rate, they've managed to live free in Iceland for more than 1,000 years after man's arrival. When the last ice age ended, the fox was left isolated in Iceland. He's been here ever since and is found all over the country. For the most part, he stays near the coast, close to the cliffs having seabird colonies. The greatest concentration of foxes is found where it's protected, within the Hortstrander Nature Reserve, in the remote northwest of the country. The fox is a hardy and highly practical creature. It has an amazing ability to adapt and can survive in even the harshest of environments, where food is often scarce. The foxes in Hortstrander are fortunate to live in an environment teeming with life. Along the shoreline, a rich variety of food is to be found, and these sources often replenish themselves more quickly and regularly than inland. Birds are the fox's staple diet, and here by the sea are plenty of seabirds, the fulmar being the most common. In addition to killing, the fox will feed on carrion, for example, seal and whale. The fox is not picky when it comes to food, and essentially will eat anything. Unlike other canines, the fox does not run in packs. They are solitary hunters, foraging alone, and when there's a surplus of food, they will stash some in the ground for winter. On average, foxes live to be 2 or 3 years old, though they can live as long as 10 years. They're not big. A fully grown fox is about the same size as a good-sized domestic cat and weighs between 3 to 5 kilos. The fox has no problem living in a cold environment and is physically well adapted to such. The Icelandic fox has a very short tail or bush, a short neck and a small snout. Its ears are also short compared to other fox types. Through time, its development has been to minimize heat loss in a cold environment. The fox's thick fur insulates well, even in conditions of extreme cold. In its winter coat, it appears stocky and short-legged. The fur is comprised of 2 layers. The longer and coarser outer layer provides very good protection against water. Beneath the outer layer are fine, denser hairs known as the underfur. This is what provides most of the insulation. The fox's unique fur helps maintain a regular body heat, even when temperatures dip to -35 degrees Celsius. The fox doesn't begin to shiver to maintain heat until it's -70 degrees Celsius. The coat is thickest from December to March. In spring, the fox sheds its thick coat. The quicker it does this, the better its physical condition. Around mid-March is when the breeding season begins. This is when the vixens become edgy. The interaction between mating pairs is considerable and intimate. Single foxes are on the prowl looking for a mate, so the males have plenty to do warding off these possible suitors. Foxes are monogamous. The reason for this is that the mating season is short and the vixen is only fertile for a few days. So the male doesn't dare leave his partner for fear of not getting to mate. Fox pairs will stay together as long as both are alive. In the case of one dying, the other will quickly find another mate. The Arctic fox in Iceland is found in two color morphs, white and blue. The white fox is white over the winter. In summer, its fur changes, so it's grey on its back and sides, as well as on its underside and the inside of the legs. The blue fox is for the most part dark brown all the year round, though the fur is somewhat lighter over the winter. Only a few animals, however, are all white over the winter. The difference in color is determined genetically, with the blue color dominating. So for there to be a white fox, it must inherit that color-determining gene from both its parents. Icelanders have many names for the fox, perhaps the most descriptive being Melraki, which literally translates as dog of the tundra. It's thought that the fox came to Iceland on drift ice from Greenland at the end of the last ice age and has been here ever since. The fox has lived in isolation here for over 10,000 years and adapted extremely well to the environment. However, Iceland's Arctic fox is not yet viewed as a specific type. Genetic research on Arctic foxes from all over the Northern Hemisphere show that 18 of 23 foxes in Iceland displayed a genetic composition not found anywhere else in the world. But it's not just the Icelandic fox's genetic composition that makes it special. It's also very different to other foxes in its living habits. A fox pair will mark off their territory. They will then roam this area in search of food daily. Boundary lines are marked out by urinating at specific points, a clear message to other foxes that this territory is off limits. The fox has a powerful sense of smell, and this is an effective way to identify its territory and deter other foxes from intruding. Right up to the middle of the last century in Iceland, it was common to drink used milk. At an early age, lambs were taken from their mothers and sent to pasture in the mountains. Delicate and without motherly protection, they were easy prey for foxes. So it's understandable that the fox gained a bad reputation among farmers. By 1970, the fox was almost extinct in Iceland, and it was reckoned that there were only around 1,000 left. Since then, the number has dramatically increased, and today it stands at around 11,000. The reason for this is a warmer climate, more favorable living conditions, and an increase in the food source. For example, the number of fulmar and pink-footed goose have risen rapidly during the same period. In the past 40 years, the number of foxes has increased tenfold. The fox was the only land mammal in Iceland when the first settlers arrived in the 9th century. Soon, there was a legal obligation to hunt the fox. Any farmer with more than 6 sheep was obliged to kill 2 young foxes a year, or else pay a penalty fee. Farmers who have colonies of eiderduck on their land are commonly fox hunters. They will sometimes even display the dead fox to the birds so as to lessen their fear. Today, there are special fox hunters employed by local authorities. In Hornvík, not all foxes manage to survive the harsh winter, and in spring, carcasses can be found scattered about. Little or no research has been done on how the fox population disperses itself. So we don't know whether or how it might move from one area to another. It would appear, however, that foxes living close to the shore are less likely to move elsewhere. The fox knows many things, but the hedgehog knows only one big thing. In his famous essay from 1953, entitled The Hedgehog and the Fox, the philosopher Isaiah Berlin uses an ancient Greek fable as a way of dividing writers and thinkers into 2 broad categories. Hedgehogs, who view the world from one narrow perspective, and foxes, whose worldview is diverse and ever-changing. Berlin's essay had a deep impact on writers and academics, even though it was presented in a light-hearted manner. One could say that Berlin's description of the fox as a resourceful and versatile creature is actually an accurate one. It sums up the fox's uncanny ability to adapt to its surroundings and survive under difficult conditions. Hornstrandir is at the northernmost extremity of Iceland's Westfjords. It's a protected area that has been deserted by man for the middle of the last century. With the threat from man now gone, the fox has reclaimed his rule of the area, at least for most of the year. The winters in Hornstrandir are long, dark and cold. The summers are short, cool and bright. From 1994, the hunting of foxes in this nature reserve has been forbidden. Hornstrandir is the kingdom of the fox. The field mouse came to Iceland with the settlers. Today, it's found all over the country in areas having vegetation. Field mice live in holes burrowed into the ground. The fox is their arch enemy. Hornvik is where you'll find the greatest concentration of foxes in the world. On average, there's a pair of foxes to each valley or hollow, and up to 7 pairs will have cubs at the same time in the area. The fox makes its den on its territory, and this is where the vixen will have her cubs. Usually the den is in a rocky place, and will have a network of tunnels, so as to allow more than one way of entering and leaving. After a gestation period of 52 days, the vixen gives birth to between 5 and 7 cubs, though there are cases where there have been up to 25 cubs. The cubs are blind at birth and gain their sight after about 2 weeks. They are totally dependent on the mother's milk for the first 3 weeks, after which they start to eat meat. In a good year, most pairs will successfully raise their cubs. However, if the spring is cold and the summer bad, few cubs will make it to the autumn. In the stony gravel, just above the shore, there's a den. There isn't much land available hereabouts, so its territory is limited, and it's close to the neighboring den. The den has only a few openings and isn't much used. Here live a haggard mother and 6 cubs. The mother is hard-pressed to feed herself and her young. The cubs soon start to look for something to eat. As summer wore on, the cubs were nowhere to be seen. Very likely, they had all been killed by a roaming fox. This is the way foxes get rid of competition and create the possibility of mating with the mother, starting a new family, and ensuring their genes survive. High up in the valley and close to the cliff edge is a large den. This is an excellent home and covers a large territory. It's well sheltered from the northern wind. It's dug into gravel and well camouflaged with angelica plants, and has many entrances. Not far away are the cliffs with a myriad of nesting birds. This den has been used by foxes for over 100 years. In this particularly fine den live a pair and 5 cubs. The same pair has used this den for several years now, and appear to be very united in their foraging for food. The mother, however, seems to spend considerably more time caring for the cubs and feeding them. All of the cubs thrived over the summer and were reared by autumn. Icelandic folk tales mention 2 strange creatures, the skoffin and skuggabaldur. A skoffin is the offspring of a male fox and a female cat. In Icelandic, the word skoffin is often used to denote idiot or fool, or even used as a term of endearment for children. The skuggabaldur, on the other hand, has a cat as its father and a fox as its mother. The word skuggabaldur is associated with evil spirits, forces of the dark, and that which furtively creeps about. Of course, cats and foxes cannot interbreed. Cats and foxes do not have the same number of chromosomes. Cats have 9, and foxes have 25. But then, such cold scientific facts don't in any way detract from a good folktale. In Saint-Exupéry's story, The Little Prince is the most engaging character. However, the fox is the wisest. In the most famous scene in the book, the fox says to the prince, "For me, you're still only a little prince, like thousands of other little boys. I don't need you. But if you come with me, then we'll need each other." And this is proved to be correct when the prince befriends the fox. That's why the little prince can tell the roses he meets, "You are as yet nothing. You are dependent on no one, and no one is reliant on you. You are like my fox. He was once just a fox like thousands of other foxes. But I have made him my friend, and now he is special in the world." The little prince returns to the fox, who says to him, "You are forever responsible for what you have become attached to. One only sees clearly with the heart. The most important is the unseen eye." Most often, both parents see to rearing the cubs. The male, or reynard, mainly sees to foraging for food the first weeks, while the vixen stays in the den with the newborn cubs. While they are being weaned, the vixen has considerable need of nourishment, much more than her partner, even though he's bigger. The vixen will often have to beg food from her partner, so that she will have sufficient milk to suckle her young. Once the cubs have been weaned, her need for food is less, and she can help out with foraging. In her daily round of the territory, the vixen will often find a good place to lie down and rest. As a fox approaches 10 years of age, it will have lost most of its teeth, especially the front teeth. Its canines are also worn. Life is hard for old foxes, both when it comes to fighting your corner and feeding. This old warrior limps about, his front paw obviously broken. He doesn't have long left. Up to the age of 7, the death rate is fairly constant. After that, it increases rapidly. It's rare for a fox in Iceland to reach 10 years of age. Old foxes simply can't compete against the young ones for territory and a mate. A fox is at its physical peak between the ages of 2 and 7. After that, old age quickly takes its toll. Cubs grow rapidly, and within 4 months, or in October, they have already reached 90% of their adult size. No other predatory creature grows so fast as the fox does in those first 4 months. During the summer, the fox will store food for the coming winter. In autumn, he is often 1 to 2 kilos heavier than in spring. In late summer, he will eat a considerable amount of berries and flies to gain extra weight. Come September, the cubs are capable of foraging for themselves. The parents come less frequently to the den, and the clear message is that the cubs should leave and fend for themselves. The fox is a solitary creature and does not run in packs like, for example, wolves. Being a loner means it's not hard to leave the place it was raised. The departure time from the den is different for males and females. Males leave about a month before the vixens. Research in Iceland shows that the young adult foxes quickly find a suitable place to stay, where they are safe from attack from older foxes. Males tend to stay on in these places in the hope of establishing their own territory. The young females maintain contact with the family den by visiting it every so often. Very likely they do this to ensure they have some place should they not find a mate or territory. Scent is crucial to foxes. It's their way of identifying each other. The young vixens need to maintain their scent around the family den so as to be able to return. Very likely their scent changes the first year as the animal gets older and becomes sexually mature. The fox is a clever animal with a great ability to adapt, and they thrive in a cold environment. Their struggle for existence is oftentimes hard when food is scarce. From September to June, the foxes of Hornstrandir have no contact with humans, and so there are no discarded scraps to be had during the harshest time of the year. The cycle of life turns full circle here in the remote northwest, just as elsewhere. Winter leaves and summer arrives. A new generation of fox cubs is born, while the older ones die. This is how it's been for thousands of years, and will continue to be.